Susan Sverluga and Anna Fifield have an really interesting article in the Washington Post. So, Otto Warmbier dies days after release from North Korean detention. So yeah, Otto Warmbier passed away in the Cincinnati hospital after being returned home. So we'll read here. Otto Warmbier, the University of Virginia student who was detained in North Korea for nearly a year and a half, died Monday afternoon, days after he returned home in a coma, his parents announced. Warmbier, 22, had been medically evacuated last week and was being treated at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. His parents, Fred and Cindy Warmbier, did not specify the cause of his death, but they made clear in a written statement that they blamed North Korea for what happened. Their son was arrested in January 2016 at the end of a brief tourist visit to the isolated country. Quote, unfortunately, the awful and torturous mistreatment of our son received at the hands of North Koreans ensured that no other outcome was possible beyond the sad one we experienced today, the Warmbier said. Warmbier's death was mourned by his wide circle of friends, by complete strangers, and it intensified political reaction to his detention, with outraged critics calling it a murder. Quote, Otto's fate deepens my administration's determination to prevent such tragedies from befalling innocent people at the hands of regimes that do not respect the rule of law or basic human decency. The United States once again condemns the brutality of the North Korean regime as we mourn its latest victim. So this is just a really sad story, but it goes to show you why you don't do stupid shit. Like, go to North Korea for fun. Like, he was his last day in Pyongyang. This kid decided to steal a political propaganda poster that said something to the extent of, like, praise our almighty leader Kim Jong-un. And a church where he was from, and apparently a secret society that he was in called the Z Society. It's a college church, kind of like Freemasons or whatever. They wanted it. Thought it would be funny to get a political propaganda poster. Warmbier is leaving the country at Pyongyang's airport, and they find it. He gets arrested and subsequently sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. He was there for 17 months and spent about 15 of those months in a coma. And this was apparently after the North Korean said he got botulism, which is a bacterial infection caused by poor living conditions, poor sanitation, poor food quality. So there's a lot of things that can cause it, but it doesn't lead to comas. The only way botulism can lead to a coma is if it causes respiratory failure, that in turn causes a heart failure, that would in turn cause the lack of oxygen supplied to his brain that was seen in the MRIs. This basically showed the deterioration that had come because of that lack of oxygen. And the only way they said that could happen was by restricted blood flow to his brain as a result of a heart failure. And this heart failure would have come as a result of overworked, if he was overworked, if he committed suicide, if he strangled himself, for instance, went unconscious, lost his heartbeat. I think that explains it pretty well. He also could have been knocked into a coma by a blunt force trauma. So if he was beaten by a guard and got hit in the right spot, he would have had time to heal up at the site of that injury before doctors here would be able to see anything. But they also announced that they didn't find any signs of botulism or beating or the sleeping pill that the North Koreans said that caused Warmbier to slip into this coma. They said that one sleeping pill couldn't do that, and they found no signs of botulism, which is apparently detectable even after you get it. They would be able to see if you had gotten it before, and they said it returned no positive results, which pretty much leads to, the conclusion that they said that was he had this heart problem, but they're not able to tell, and that every region of his brain, so every part of his brain had extensive damage to it, meaning that it was most likely not a blow to a single spot, which might cause some people to fall into a coma and maybe some local damage in that area or region they were struck, but not like this. So it's really sad, and we're now in the position as a country to where we're going to have to do something about this, because it can't go unchecked. It can't go unnoticed. We can't allow the mistreatment of Americans in North Korean detention to continue at this kind of pace and at this kind of frequency. We have 3 Americans there right now. There have been some calls by lawmakers. I believe there's a Republican lawmaker who even introduced legislation to make it illegal to travel to North Korea if you're an American citizen. It would be that was actually Adam Schiff, a Democrat, and Joe Wilson, he's a Republican from South Carolina. That was the North Korea Travel Control Act. So yes, we need to do something. Now, do we put sanctions on North Korea for what they did? Yes, and maybe. It's hard to say, man. I think you have to do something. You have to show that you're not going to be pushed around. And I think Trump has actually handled this better than some presidents. Maybe like the only thing he's actually been decent at. Because the Obama administration, I covered this in my last video about Otto Warmbier. The Obama administration was pretty much telling his parents, like, you're just going to have to lay low and let us see what we can do, because, you know, he was the one that did this to himself. It's not like the North Koreans went out and captured an innocent American. You know, he broke the laws of that country in that country, and he might have to be there for a while before we can make a deal for his release. Now, Trump was like, fuck that, we're going to get this kid out of there. Apparently, at least, he's been in some contact with his parents. And I can't take anything away from what he did for him. I think Trump acted and did everything the right way. We didn't hear about anything crazy coming out of this story before Otto was returned home, meaning that nothing crazy happened between the U.S. and North Korean officials that met in New York City to discuss his return. But there's no way that we'll ever know exactly what happened to Otto. You know, if he did commit suicide, then are we really justified in sanctioning this country? Sure, they arrested him for a silly reason, but it's still illegal in that country. You know, if you break a law somewhere else, you have to pay the consequences somewhere else. And, you know, we'd like to think that the government loves to protect us, but it just goes to show that one life isn't as valuable as you would think it would be in all cases. And unfortunately, we lost a life, and one of our own, because of a silly decision he made, and I don't see this getting better anytime soon. Even if Trump does something, puts a sanction on North Korea, what does that really solve in the long term? Nothing. Is that going to get our prisoners back? Most likely not. So this is an interesting story, and you know, now it's over. There won't be much more to report on this, and it's sad to see it end this way, but you know, at least his parents were able to say goodbye, and I think that at least means something. So thanks, Trump, and thank you for watching The Primo Show. If you like what I do, drop a like below, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Primo Show, and keep it locked. I will see you guys later. Peace. Mwah.